full employment. Because insecurity in any society, especially ours, cannot be detached from youth unemployment and the attendant restiveness. So how can you imagine that a government will come in and the first thing it will do is to sack, terminate very rudely, very cruelly and heartlessly the appointment of about 70,000 Abia youths, young men and women? What do you expect them to do?
70,000 or 7,000?
I mean 7,000. I mean, you disengage, terminate about 7,000 Abia youths. What do you expect them to do? You force them into a state of hopelessness, and the outcome cannot be separated from the likelihood of insecurity, because the stomach must be filled, and when there is no genuine needs of filling that stomach and the hunger persists, of course anything could happen. That is as regards welfare. Now there should be harmony in any state to guarantee good governance, because there is what we call separation of powers, and that makes it clear that there are government. You have the legislature, the executive, and of course the judiciary over the other. In a democracy, what we have is a governor, like in a state like of ours. You don't have an emperor. But what you have today, the House of Assembly in Abia State has been scrutinized, terrified, and of course humiliated that there is no legislative harmony. As long as we know, in the first 100 days of Labour Party government in Abia State, it has been a very rancorous relationship within the House. That should not be so. Under Okezi Ipazo, there was legislative harmony, there was harmony between the executive and the legislature, and that was why there was peace in the state. And then you come to the issue of traditional rulers. These are royal fathers that should be treated with very high degree of respect. You don't subject them to exercises that humiliate their personality. If you want to know the number of traditional rulers in your state, there is that ministry that handles the affairs of local government, traditional rulers. And what do? Send a memo or a directive that the local government should let me know how many autonomous communities exist in your local government, and of course how many traditional rulers are living. And these are things that should have formed their blueprint. You should have known these things even before assuming office, so that you will know, in this local government we have these communities, we have this number of traditional rulers. But the idea of humiliating traditional rulers, subjecting them to coming for a physical verification, I think it is in the least acceptable.
Well, so the government says it is just taking of census. It's not verification per se.
No, what is census? What is the difference between census and the verification? The difference between verification and census is just a matter of nomenclature. The most important thing is that the people have been humiliated. And again, the government, how can you say Igbos, Nigerians, Africans, we have our idiosyncrasy, we are ceremonial in nature. How can you come and give a decree, not even an order, not even a law, that under your what? No, there will be no secrecy confinement? That is, you are gagging the freedom of traditional rulers. Why must you say that traditional rulers have no right to confer chieftaincy titles on people who have actually earned respect by their enterprise, by their engagement, by their commitment to the society? So as far as I'm concerned, and of course you know, It has been, like I said, it has been very, very hellish. If you go to Aba South now, you see the number of cake Aba Town Hall. You see the number of cake operators who have hauled into that place. When he came in, he told us that revenue generation will be electronically driven. But today, he has employed people from his area, asking people to pay 300 naira per day. And it takes a long process of up to 5 hours for a keke man to pay. And of course, it is paid cash. And what is the receipt? A piece of paper that is worthless given, which means there is no accountability. There is no accountability. A lot of things have gone wrong within the first 100 days of 18 Labour Party government. We are praying. We are in the tribunal. We are very optimistic because the points are there. Our people are going to address the issues on point of law and by God's grace, based on sanctity of law and constitutionality. This hellish administration will soon cease to be.
Okay, let's take you up on the issue of the traditional rulers. The governor's spokesperson indeed said that what they did was enumeration, not fiscal verification. In other words, the traditional rulers got a form that they filled and sent back to the government, that they were not assembled at any particular venue. Do you have any contrary information that the traditional rulers were asked to assemble at a venue for a fiscal verification?
Thank you very much. That is the job. In fact, the traditional rulers, I think, might have to be very thankful to PDP in Abia State, because when we saw what was about happening, we raised alarm. We said it should not be done. It's just like when medical doctors were asked to fill a form. Those who want to who want to retain their services should indicate and so on. We said no, you don't do this. These are people who have put in more than 20 years. Some of them are about retiring, and you are not giving them forms to indicate if they want to continue or not. No, it is unethical. It is unadministrative. So that was what happened, and suddenly they stopped. Abruptly they stopped because we had told them it was unacceptable. It was not the best way to go. That is exactly what happened in the case of traditional rulers.
Okay, so in other words, you're saying the government changed its mind because you started crying out.
We made the government to change.
Okay, let's take a look at some other issues now. Let's look at the state on a broader level. Abia will be 32 on August 27, that's in 2 days' time. Would like to get your assessment of development in the state.
As a matter of fact,
And be kind to add PDP days, please.
as a matter of fact, Abia, we've put in about Ojo Zokalu 8 years, TA 4 years, Okezipazo 8 years. That's about 20 years of PDP, because the first tenure of Senator TLG was PPA. So Abia as a state has done well. The most important thing, there are many angles or perspectives through which a government or a state could be assessed or measured. The most important thing is security. Abia as a state, especially under PDP, has been a very peaceful and secured state. And of course, we've also had developments in the area of health, for instance. Even recently, Abia was declared one of the best in terms of health management, and that was courtesy of Okezipazo's administration. And of course, before PDP came, or by the time PDP came, some companies were having problems. A company like Golden Guinea Breweries had almost become moribund. It was under PDP that Golden Guinea Breweries was revitalized. And people say that government has no business in establishing businesses or enterprises. But I think we proved them wrong, because by the time Okezipazo was leaving, he was able to hand over two functional companies, manufacturing companies, one for shoes, one for Texas. So, and we've not done badly in terms of agriculture. Our people during the time of in fact, started from the time of Ojus Okalo, TA and Okezie Ikpeazu, there was emphasis, there was aggressive pursuit of emphasis. You know, Abia does not have enough a lot when it comes to land mass. But what a government could do, a government that is very visionary could do, is to embark on sections of agriculture that are not land intensive. So what we did to some extent was to go into animal husbandry. Under Okezie, integrated poultry farms were established. Our farmers, we have a rice belt in this state, in the north, and before Okezie Ikpeazu, there was no rice mill in this state. Our people were going as far as Ebonyi, Ishiagu area to make their rice, but at least under Okezie Ikpeazu, no farms were, rice mills were established. And again, there was also emphasis on poultry. There was also emphasis on poultry. Above all, we grew in leaps and bounds in terms of hybrid tenera species of palm trees. And the people who took advantage of it, I'm sure, must have been making a fortune out of it. So look at it from education. Abia has been coming top for a very long time. Each time the WAEC is released, we come first, at least under PDP, especially during the time of Okezie Ikpeazu. So in terms of, like I've mentioned, we've not done badly in terms of health. There's hardly any community in Abia State that doesn't have a primary health center, which is very, very important, because when we come to talk of health, primary health is the most important. Secondary and tertiary could be elitist, but you see, the one that relates mainly with the grassroots is the primary health, and Abia has done very, very well, excellently well in that area. So I think that Abia, in 32 years of existence, has done well, except in about the last 100 days, where bitterness, rancor, vindictiveness, recrimination took over our political land space. But we are optimistic. It is not going to last longer than necessary.
Well, we'll take a quick break. When we return, the program continues. Please stay with us.
Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium. Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium. Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium. Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium. Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium. Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium. Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium. Experience the smooth and strong feeling that consistently surpasses expectation. Leading the way in high-performance lubricants, Master Supermoto Oil is as durable as titanium.
Once again.
So quickly, let's talk about the subsidy regime, which is really so hellish for Nigerians as we speak. The government at the federal level has sent monies to states, sent bags of rice. Different states are already unveiling their plan about how they can help the people to survive this hard time. How would you assess the... I'm sorry, I don't know of any plan, but let me just ask this way. What is your impression about what the government is doing concerning the subsidy regime?
Thank you very much. In the first instance, I'm one of those who had long advocated for removal of subsidy from the petroleum regime, because I saw it as not being realistic. You don't create an impression that people could be given, people could be living on a subsidy, which means at any given time they may not be able to pay fully what they consume. I also believe that subsidy actually was a corrupt regime. That was another synonym for subsidy regime was corruption, because in the first instance nobody knew what quantity of oil and at what cost was being subsidized.
True.
I did not know. I was a former commissioner for petroleum in this state, and I think I could speak from some depth of experience. So I felt that what a government should do is to create enabling environment. There are certain things you will do and the economy will ginger, it will pick up. Take for instance, you should provide the people with good network of roads. By the time you do it, you see that a lot of things will blossom. Farmers will have access to the market, because the joy of producing is also in marketing. When you produce and you don't have access to go to where you could dispose of your produce, it becomes very frustrating. So even when Jonathan in 2012 proposed the removal of subsidy from our oil industry, I was one of those that applauded it. Unfortunately, he didn't have the liver, he didn't have the boldness, the audacity to sustain that very good program. That's why I commend the president, President Bola Tinubu, for mustering the courage. We will suffer initially, but at the end, if things are done better, if we put our refineries in good state, if we are able to create productivity, make sure that we have good roads, electricity. You see that even this issue of insecurity, many people take to insecurity because of frustration. So, as for what program, I learned the federal government has released some money to states. I read online that that of Abia is about 5 billion naira.
But at the moment they've received 2.
But for me, the issue is not the issue. The solution may not lie in cash donation. If you give someone 8,000 or 10,000, for instance, in a family of 10, or 4, what is he going to do with 10,000 naira? My own opinion is that there are certain things, basic facilities we have to do. One, improve on our health, so that the person that is sick could walk into a primary health center. Our sickness here is basically malaria, typhoid. At least provide enough anti-malaria, anti-typhoid drugs in our primary health centers, so that whoever that walks into that place comes out healthier. You have solved the issue of health. Now, on the issue of transportation, yes, that is why I emphasize that our roads must be put in proper perspective, in order, so that government can now flood our roads with vehicles, mass transit buses. We had it in those days of SDP and now. Did it in the West in those days, in the First Republic, where there was free education, and I think PDP had also done it sometime, even not long ago. OKZ revitalized a scholarship board in Abia State, and many of our children were sent abroad. I think they're still there. I hope this present government will not abandon them there. So I don't know what the government in Abia State intends doing with the money proposed to be given to it, whether it is 5 billion or 2 billion. The most important thing is that something that will lead to productive living should be embarked upon. And in that case, instead of giving 30,000 bags or 33,000 bags of rice will be shared, emphasize on productivity. And that, in that case, you could think of fertilizer, because the law of diminishing return has almost taken over our land, and land does not grow. So get the women empowered with fertilizer. It will help them. That's my opinion. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not.
Well, the state government has actually released a plan saying the money it has gotten so far will be shared through the political wards, and of course that has generated some concerns, because those who are not politicians, how would they benefit? The political wards, who would be in charge? Is it the Labour Party, or will it be the INEC and recognized political wards?
Well, you see, that is why I feel that a government that is coming into power, a party that is coming into power, should have the luck, the privilege, the grace of having people who are broad-minded. If you are narrow-minded, you cannot do well in leadership, because you will always be parochial. Take for instance, if you give it according to political words, there are political units or leadership in such words, and basically it will be labor. And if you give whatever is meant for my ward to Labour Party, I don't even need to go there, because the type of politics we play in Africa, in Nigeria, is that once they see Don Obane close to where Labour Party has assembled some bags of rice to share, before you know it, the whole environment will be polluted with my thinking of
decamping to Labour.
Yes, defection. But what I suggest should be done, go through the traditional rulers. Traditional rulers are non-partisan. They don't know whether you are PDP or Labour. He will assemble the community and say, this is what government has released to us as palliative. What do you think we should do with it? Everybody will be there, irrespective of party affiliation, irrespective of religious inclination, irrespective of sex. So I am thinking that if they want to do anything in that respect, they should go through the traditional rulers. This is the safest route.
Okay, let's get your view on a recent development. You were once upon a time the Commissioner for Information in this state. Just yesterday, the Abia State government sealed a building or the environment around Azikiwe Primary School with an allegation that the administration you served in sold some of these public schools to people that you were allegedly, had relationship with. Would like to get to know from you, what is your take on these allegations? And we understand that some of these schools are being converted to private use. Markets are springing up. Some are turning to residential areas. Is the allegation true that these schools were sold by your administration to your cronies?
Well, the worst thing that can happen to any leadership, be it at any level, is ignorance. A leader should be well informed. You don't come out to a public forum to display ignorance. These schools, excuse me, there were a lot of private schools in the southeast before the Nigerian-Biafran War. So at the end of the war, in order to make sure that national orientation was effectively spread, so to say, so the government of Abia decided to take over all schools owned by individuals and nations. And of course, in those days, in the whole of Eastern region, there were only 3 government-owned secondary schools. Government College Omaya, Government College Afipo, Government College Owerri. These were the schools owned by Eastern region, that is now 9 states. Because what government does, it will set a model. This is how education should be run in a secondary school. Then other investors, be it from the missionaries or from private sector, will now take a cue. So when the war ended and the Abia took over this school, there were a lot of complaints, because you don't deprive people of their investment. So realistically, during the time of Governor T.A. Ochendo, he felt that injustice should be addressed, and he started by returning schools to the original owners. Uga High School, for instance, was returned to the Anglican Church. Wikos was returned to Kwaibo Church. The school in question the one the Labour Party, out of ignorance, claims was sold by PDP government, was owned by, is it one Ogudoro? That school at Azikwere was owned by an individual, and the government is a continuum. If a policy was started, if a policy was begun during the time of Ochendo, Governor T.A. Oji, nothing prevents it from continuing during the time of Governor Okezie-Ikpeazu, PhD. So it was maybe in that second phase that these schools were returned to their owners. How would you sell a school to an individual? No, you wouldn't do that. Schools were only returned to their original owners, because it has been a long time protest and demand, and we are all human beings. Government, as a matter of fact, I still say it, you should only have model schools that will set examples of how school administration should be run, how teaching and learning should take place. Then private individuals, missionaries, could now do the main thing. So for a government to say that PDP government sold schools to private individuals simply shows that they do not know they do not know their audience.
Okay, but are you not worried that under the administration you served in, that the schools that were returned to the original owners were being converted into something else? For instance, we've heard of markets and even residential buildings springing up in some of these schools, which ordinarily shouldn't be. Or is there no law preventing such from happening? For instance, I'm aware if you have a land, or if you allocated a land, the government tells you that this place is for school, this place is for market, this place is for these. But the owners are now converting these, and the conversion actually started under the administration you served in.
Well, what a government does in a situation like this is to come up with appropriate laws. The right of ownership is fundamentally guaranteed in our constitution. An individual has right, who has worked hard, earned his money, could say, I'm investing on this. After all, where we are now is a private enterprise. In those days, in the whole of Eastern region, there was only one broadcasting station, and that was Eastern Nigeria Broadcasting Corporation, ENBC. But today, you see a lot in Abia, we have up to 3 or 4. So that right to ownership is guaranteed. Now, what a government should do, if you see that the man whose school has been handed over to him is now doing something contrary to maybe the master plan of the city and so on, you come up with a law and say this thing should not happen. This place is not designated for, it is not designed for market, and so it is for education alone. If the man wants to, sell part of his land, he could sell it to someone who also wants to establish another school, but not to have market. But the idea of coming, when you come into government and your preoccupation is to trade blames, this man has done, why don't you face governance? That was exactly what this our brother Emeki Hedwa spent all his time doing in Imo State. Before you know it, before you could say Jack Robinson, he was out. Concentrate on governance. Governance is a very huge project. It's very demanding. You don't have time to be looking backwards. The more you look backwards, the more you are stuck. You cannot move. Go ahead and do what you think you should be remembered for, not trading blames here and there. So schools were returned to their original owners because they had the right to repossess what was taken away from them. And if the man is going contrary to what the master plan says, it is the responsibility of government to say, no, our brother, our dear investor, you dare not go this way. It is unacceptable. But resorting to always blaming previous governments, it is a defeatist.
Okay.
Earlier on, you did mention that when you were trying to analyze the about 100 days of the Labour Party government, you did mention that it's been nothing but chasing political enemies and suffering in Abia. But just this week, the government did make a move about relaunching some agencies of government, trying to improve them to see how they can run effectively. Take a cue from the Abia State Orientation Agency, where the government said they were going to rebrand that place. Don't you see this as a good move?
What is rebranding? Rebranding, is it an initiative? This is an initiative of the government of Abia State, of a PDP government. In fact, to be specific, Governor Kezipa gave a lot of impetus to Abia State National State Orientation Agency, where the former CPS, Mr. Chief Godwin Adendo, was the DG. And what are you rebranding? Are you rebranding that the orientation agency will not be orientation agency again? It is no achievement. It is no achievement because you've not told us what other programs you are going to add to Abia State Orientation Agency. Orientation agency is to enlighten people, educate people, let them be conscious of the environment.
Good. Perhaps they've not been doing that enlightenment enough.
No. You see, something could be done maybe without much publicity. I want to put it on record that Chief Godwin Adendo did a lot of enlightenment exercise while he was DG, Abia State Orientation Agency. He was, for anybody that is not unfair to critical development, will tell you that Godwin Adendo did a very good job. And it is because that agency existed. That is why someone has been appointed to be there. In fact, my brother from Okwa West, Pastor D.K. Wankwo, I hope they will take good care of that agency so that he can actually prove his worth.
Okay. Earlier on, you also mentioned security as one of the biggest achievements of the PDP's administration in Abia State. Would like to know what your administration did that made Abia one of the safest in the country, in your words, and of course, if this administration could borrow a leaf.
Well, the governments of Senator T.A. Oji and of course Zibaz, even extending to that of Ojus Okalo when he was a governor, there was mass recruitment of Abia youths. And when you have an engagement, an official engagement that guarantees you meal ticket, you turn against criminality. Many people who are into crime today just because they don't just have any hope, any source of livelihood, and therefore when crime is offered to them as an option, they very unwillingly accept it. So basically there was employment. Now take for instance, we have 17 local government councils, area councils in this state. Each time a PDP government existed, we will always have, if you don't have elected council officials, you will have transition committee chairman and members. That was another way of empowering people. But what is this administration doing? For 3 months, the local government councils have just been reduced to rubbles. You don't have elected officials. You don't have appointed officials. Even the local government council heads of service, they've all been weakened. They were invited to Omaya. They were asked to come to Omaya with their seals. And when they got to Omaya, those seals were seized. Allegedly, because I was not there. Those seals were seized. So what happens now is that any money that is going to be spent in the name of local government, the people in Omaya sign it, prepare the voucher, and these people seal it and invite the head of service and treasurer. They just come and seal, and every time they're under the threat of suspension, if you don't seal, you will go. So you can see the number of people that should have been engaged in the local government areas, 17 local government. Even if you make it 10-10 or 11-11, you know what it will give you. And for any appointment you give or create in the state, there are more than 5 persons, even 10 persons that will benefit from such an appointment. But today, the place is zero. And so, there is hopelessness. Again, during a PDP time, there was youth empowerment. People were given, some people will be given keke, some people will be given motorcycle, some will be given cars, just to make sure that they get themselves engaged in meaningful economic pursuit. But under this administration, it is an emperor. Even from intelligence we have, the commissioners are complaining. They are giving little or nothing. Members of the house are, reduced to nothing. So when you confiscate the whole money coming to the state, like since the creation of Abia State, Abia has never received the type of money that has come within this term, this first 100 days. The government of Abia State, present government, has received almost up to 70 billion naira. And what have you done with it? Nothing. You told us you brought people who looked like they were from, what's the name of this construction company? Julius Beja. You took them to Aba, to Port Harcourt Road. There was a lot of applause, commendations for you. But when eventually you became governor, you now looked for a very inferior company, Soul Badge, which we are told you have interest in. He has interest in. And that is the company that is doing the little palliative work he is doing. So all local contractors have been put by the wayside. These people were also generating revenue that was also helping in creating circulation of money. So the man now does everything himself. This is not the way to run a government. You don't run a government as if it is a personal enterprise. And meanwhile, he's thinking of introducing treasury single account, TSA, so that he has a bank, Signature Bank. Any moment from now, he thinks that Signature will arrive at the state, and every money that arrives Abia, that is collectible from Abia, will now get into Signature Bank. But it will not work because...
Isn't that a speculation?
No, but we are talking from a point of intelligence. Because in politics, you must have intelligence gathering. That is why we are politicians.
Okay. If you just joined us, this is the Abia Democrats. We have Sadon Ubani, Okubunka Ovasa.
And Okama Dendasa.
Okay, that's the other part as our guest this morning. We'll quickly take a message. When we're done with that, we'll get to pick your brains on the PDP's case at the tribunal.
And we are doing very well.
Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The man is going.